Okay, this will be a recording of Patrick Henry, Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death. This is a speech he made to the House of Virginia under the King of England on March 23rd, 1775, so before the Revolution had begun. And this is in St. John's Church, Richmond, Virginia. So at this time, just a little synopsis on what's going on at this time. At this time, there's a lot of commotion amongst the colonies, and a lot of people are of the feeling that they are too disorganized to stand against the king. Patrick Henry lays out his opinion regarding the idea that the colonies are too disorganized and need to rally around the king in the speech that follows. Now, also, when he says president and house, I believe he's referring to the House of Lords and the president of the House of Lords. So it's not the elected president of the United States or any kind of elected president, most like. It is the king's version of the House, which is what was going on at the time. Okay. And Patrick Henry, he went on to become the governor of Virginia, which was a very important state for several years after this. I'll speak some more of him afterwards. So, give me liberty or give me death. St. John's Church, Richmond, Virginia, March 23rd, 1775. Mr. President, no man thinks more highly than I do of patriotism, as well as abilities of the very worthy gentlemen who have just addressed the House. But different men often see the same subject in different lights, and therefore I hope it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen if, entertaining as I do opinions of the character very opposite to theirs, I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery, and in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time through fear of giving offense? Or should I consider myself as guilty of treason towards my country and of an act of disloyalty toward the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings? My president, it is natural to man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against the painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be the number of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging of the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the British ministry for the last 10 years to justify those hopes of which gentlemen have been pleased to solace themselves and the House. Is it the insidious smile with which our petition has been lately received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourself to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourself how this gracious reception of our petition comports with these warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our lands. Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back our love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are the implements of war and subjugation. The last arguments to which our king resort. I ask, gentlemen, sir, what means this martial army if it proposed not to be forced of submission? Can gentlemen assign any other possible motive for it? Has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world to call for all the accumulation of navies and armies? No, sir, she has none. They are meant for us. They can be meant for no other. They are sent over to bind and rivet upon us those chains which the British ministry has been so long forging. And what have we to oppose them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we have been trying that for the last 10 years. Have we anything new to offer upon the subject? Nothing. We have held the subject up in every light of which it is capable, but it has been all in vain. Shall we resort to the entreaty and humble supplication? What terms shall we find which have not been already exhausted? Let us not, I beseech you, sir, deceive ourselves. Sir, we have done everything that could be done to avert the storm which is now coming. We have petitioned, we have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves before the throne and have implored its imposition to arrest the tyrannical hands of the ministry and parliament. Our petitions have been slighted, our remonstrances have produced additional violence and insult. Our supplication have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with contempt from the foot of the throne. In vain after these things may we indulge the fond hope of peace and reconciliation. There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve the inviolate those inestimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our contests shall be obtained, we must fight. I repeat, sir, we must fight. An appeal to arms and to the God of hosts is all that is left to us. They tell us, sir, that we are weak, unable to cope with so formidable an adversary. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be the next week or the next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed, when a British guard shall be stationed in every house? Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? Shall we acquire the means of effectual resistance by lying supinely on our backs and hugging the delusive phantom of hope until our enemies shall have bound us hand and foot? Sir, we are not weak if we make proper use of those means which the God of nature hath placed in our power. 3 millions of people, armed in the holy cause of liberty, and in such a country as that which we possess, are invincible by any force which our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, and who will rise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable. The war is inevitable. and let it come. I repeat, sir, let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, 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 peace. But there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? If life is so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery, forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. A little bit about Patrick Henry after that resounding speech. Patrick Henry, May 29th, 1736 to June 6th, 1799, was an American attorney and planter and politician who became known as an orator during the movement for independence in Virginia in the 1770s. A founding father, he serves as the 5th and 6th post-colonel governor of Virginia from 1776 to 1779. This speech was in 1775, so the year before that. And from 1784, Henry led the opposition to the Stamp Act in 1765. The Stamp Act, for those who recall, was a tax on the printing of documents. It was essentially designed to reduce the amount of pamphlets that was spreading around the colonies and the new ideas that they were creating, and alternative news sources that the pamphlets were creating. He led the opposition to the Stamp Act in 1765 and is remembered for his Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death speech. Along with Samuel Adams and Thomas Paine, he's regarded as one of the most influential campaigners of republicanism and an invested promoter of the American Revolution and its fight for independence. So republicanism in this sense is the idea of local governments local governments passing their laws up to the top and joining in relative loose federation versus strong federal government, or the Federalist, which was saying that the central authorities can overrule the local authorities. And then as it references Samuel Adams was a great promoter of the revolution, and of course he made the beer, which was a relatively big deal at the time because it created an economic source and funds for the revolution. Sam Adams and John Hancock were some major financial contributors to the revolution. And Thomas Paine was the famous pamphleteer that we will discuss in further videos. Okay. After the revolution, Henry was a leader of the Anti-Federalist in Virginia. He opposed the United States Constitution, fearing that it endangered the rights of the states as well as the freedoms of the individual. He helped gain adoption of the Bill of Rights. By 1789, however, he supported President John Adams and the Federalists. He denounced passage of the Kentucky-Virginia resolutions as he feared the social unrest and widespread executions that had followed the increasing radicalism of the French Revolution. That's what this is saying here. So the American Revolution was had, and the American Revolution was a very the nature of the revolution. It's often, while it was bloody and confrontational, the goal of the revolution was always phrased in terms of a renegotiation of power, a renegotiation of property rights, what have you. So now in the French Revolution, which was about 15 to 20 years after the American Revolution, the French Revolution became much more of a conflict, whereas the American Revolution was trying to renegotiate with the king and stay within the bounds and acceptable behaviors of the king, of the monarchical system, and get along with it. the French Revolution sought to destroy the monarchical system. So what happened there in the French Revolution, first you beheaded a lot of the monarchs and their associates, and then immediately after, within like 5 to 10 years, you beheaded all the revolutionists as well, and then you just started beheading a lot more people. So the idea of killing the king and taking vengeance and going about the revolution that way was less appealing to the colonies based on what they saw in the French Revolution, which essentially meant that all the revolutionists would get beheaded in a short time, or at least indicated that. And so then when you're talking about federalists and the anti-federalists, the two main discussions that they have are basically comes down to trust. Communication at the time of the Constitution and so forth was limited to how far you could yell, essentially, pigeons and horses and so forth, but ultimately is down to yelling for effective two-way communication, letter writing to some degree. So the Anti-Federalists essentially had the opinion that you can't trust anybody that you can't communicate with, so local government should be the supreme authority. And then the Federalists had a different opinion, that the central government should overrule the local governments. However, many of the Anti-Federalists sort of had a change of opinion based on the conflicting natures that they saw with the Native Americans, the French, the German colonists, and the Quakers as well as the what they saw in the French Revolution. Essentially, by having a overly weak central government, it was relatively easy to find ways to divide the people, and instead of the colonists all describing themselves as Americans, people who live on the American continent, they started to describe themselves as French American, German American, and all these other little subsects. And then whenever it came time for war, Benjamin Franklin particularly wrote about the Germans. The Germans were very against supporting war within the colonies, as well as the Quakers and several others, because they did not feel connected to the central government. They did not, and then likewise, there is discussion of why don't we have North America, South America within the colonies, and other types of divisions. And this type of thought process continued on until the Manifest Destiny period of Andrew Jackson and Polk, when the American government sought to make sure that California and New York were connected so that the country, the nation or whatever, the country, could not get divided from one coast to another. And this was the goal of the manifestation period of America. Okay, so that's about Patrick Henry. Give me liberty or give me death.